ball. This is such a difficult position for Duda to play. And he needs more of that. We need to see more of that creative genius spark.
And now he has the white pieces. Here we go, David.
Yeah, here we go. We're off in game 2 of today. And Mamedyarov starting with the queen's pawn. What is he going to try? He needs to keep the momentum. I think the last thing Mamedyarov should do is play it safe in this game. Just keep going for Duda while he's a bit off balance, especially before he recovers Duda from that last defeat. That would have been a crushing feeling, just losing when you're a queen up for just a rook. But yeah, Mamedyarov, just like you said, Jovanka, at some point everyone blunders in chess. It's just about how you spin it after that, how you recover, how you react. And Mamedyarov set his opponent some practical problems. He's got to do the same in this Ragozin defense. It's a branch of the Queen's Gambit declined. This bishop coming out means it's the Ragozin, one of the favourites of Levon Aronian. Magnus Carlsen has played this plenty of times. All the top guys have this in their repertoire. White's bishop coming out to pin the black knight.
Yep, and I think that you have some choices here. You can either capture the pawn or you can attack the bishop. And of course, there are other moves in the position.
Yeah, plenty of options here for black. And what will Duda choose? I'm guessing he's going to attack this bishop with the black pawn. I think I've seen Duda play that before. But yeah, it's still a very theoretical position. Still, it's just choosing your poison, as they say. OK, he does take the pawn. And he used to do this all the time. So it's transposing to what we call the Vienna, the Vienna gambit. So white's actually down a pawn. Black has essentially seized the queen's gambit. He said, yep, you gambited a pawn, I'm going to take it, I'm going to defend it. But what black's doing now with his pawns on this left side, it's a bit convoluted. In a way, it feels very shaky. Black is taking risks, and if things do collapse, if black loses his extra pawn, then white just has a nice pawn center. Yeah,
and well, white has various ways to handle this position. And the most popular move by far is the one that Mamedyarov has played. And Duda immediately challenging in the centre. So far, all standard stuff, all been played before. But I think both sides will be happy because the position now will be quite sharp.
Yeah, and that's very English of you, Jovanka. Quite
sharp. I know.
It means it's going to be explosive. It means fire on the board.
It's such a bad habit of mine to kind of do this British thing. Or just a little bit. So just a little bit drama there.
Itsy-bitsy.
I know.
Slightly.
And I'm like, I've got to tone it down because people, you know, unless you're British and you know that I'm kind of like tongue-in-cheek, then, yeah, can be misunderstood.
No, don't stop doing it. I would actually say British people must be the most charming people. Do you think that's a common British people? Very charming. With the politeness.
We're just acting, Kaya. We're not actually that charming. We're horrible people deep down.
No.
That's a stereotype that we're like Hugh Grant, like oops-a-daisy.
Yeah, exactly. Hugh Grant.
And I remember when my parents moved over to England, the thing that made my mum laugh is this o'clock. 11 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. That's true. 11 is what everyone else
say that in the rest of the world?
No, they would say 11. Let's meet at 11
a.m.
Oh, yeah.
It's just us saying o'clock.
1100 hours.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, us Brits. But meanwhile, this position is slightly sharp. It is exploding in the centre. If you look at the pawn structure already, it's just a mess. Black has 2 in the centre. One of them's about to be captured. I'm not 100% familiar with the theory in this position. I vaguely remember looking at it a while ago and then just deciding I'm not going to try this as black because I couldn't figure out what was going on. But let's jump in. Right now, it is black, I think, with an extra pawn. But this guy is going to be captured. I'm assuming you can capture it, first of all, with a knight if you want to, or you can maybe, if I remember correctly, take this knight off the board first.
Those are the 2 options. It's much more popular to capture the pawn with a knight, though.
Yeah. So the idea is this knight is pinned. You can't move it. It's pinned on this diagonal, so you have to remove one of the attackers of that piece. So the most popular move is knight takes pawn. And white's bishop is actually going to spring out and capture this guy on the next couple of turns. So white will likely go a pawn up, but black is very active. Black is actually the first one to castle often in these positions. Black has a nice pin on this diagonal. The reason, I guess, Mamedyarov is pausing now is he's just trying to... I mean, it's a matter of taste in this position. He's just trying to choose what to play. I do remember that this was a move, bishop takes knight, as you mentioned, Jovanka. It's maybe the second main move. And after the black queen recaptures, now the difference is the white queen can take this pawn. And the game would maybe be a bit calmer if the queens do disappear, if the queens are traded off. You can't do that in the current position. Just to clarify, you can't trade off the queens yet, because after a queen exchange, the fact that this knight still lives on the board means that knight takes pawn is possible. Again, profiting from this pin, and now black is actually winning, because there's an attack against this knight, there's an attack against this bishop, and black is also a pawn up. So those are the two options. Chaos, as we said, and it's likely to stay that way for some time, even after those moves we suggested. But we're expecting, okay, one of those two moves, Shak does indeed capture the knight. This hints to me that he wants to play it slightly safer, because, as we showed, the queens are likely to get traded. And after queen takes bishop, I'm expecting Shak now. The difference is that you can take with the queen. And yeah, heading towards an endgame. Still a crazy endgame, still very imbalanced. So not a draw offer, not anything too calm or too boring.
But
Luckily.
should he try to let Duda keep his queen?
Yeah.
Seems he always wins the game, and he's the only one missing the queen.
True. Give up the white queen. You don't need it. That's true, actually. Normally, I associate Shak's attacks with, you know, queens coming to checkmate the enemy king, and he did checkmate there in the last game. But without a queen, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's almost once in a lifetime for most players, but for Shak, it's like 3 times a tournament.
Yeah.
Sacrificing a queen. He literally sacked his queen to win against Giri, against Rapport, and now against Duda.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Seems to be something that he should do more often. And whilst Duda is considering which way to capture that bishop, it's much more common for the queen to go and capture the bishop, as David has indicated. Well, I'll share with you another meme. This time it comes from Murali Haram, who says, this one is very standard. They've been there, I've been there. You sleep, brain goes, but what if you had moved the knight? And you're like, shut up, I'm trying to sleep. And then, let me check on my phone. It happens to me all the time.
He does it.
No, it's like it doesn't let go. You think that you've got, especially happens after a loss. And yeah, it's the stuff of nightmares, because it won't go away. And there we actually see Duda. He wants to gamble. He wants to take risks.
Oh.
He's actually captured the piece with his pawn. It has been played before, I have to say, but not the most popular response.
Yeah, I guess simply because black has a set of double pawns now on the f-file, and if black's king were ever to castle on that side of the board, it would be vulnerable. So Duda taking risks. He does have slightly more central control because that pawn covers some key central squares. But yeah, not the usual method.
Will he castle now in this game?
If the queens come off the board, black's king will be safe, whether it castles, whether it stays in the centre. But now Mamedyarov's like, OK, you've ruined your pawn structure, time to keep the queens on. So now if the black king does castle over to this right side, then the white queen can go and attack it. So Mamedyarov, that's how the top players, they're so good. They're very flexible. It's like Mamedyarov, he was ready to trade off the queens. He wanted to, but Duda does something a bit weird, and he's like, actually, no. I'm going to keep the queens on because I think black's king is going to be more vulnerable than white's.
Yeah, that must be some of the hardest things in chess, when you have this great plan.
Yeah, just...
To change it.
Yeah. It's not following dogmatic thinking all the time. It's being flexible, essentially thinking on the fly. And that's why the top players, they calculate so much, because sometimes you calculate your plan doesn't actually work. So you have to go and kind of switch the move order or be a bit creative. And temporarily, white's a pawn up. His bishop's just gone to capture a pawn. And Duda, what's he going to do with the black king? Black can regain a pawn, actually. Black's light squared bishop can go and capture white's pawn in the middle of the board. That pawn is not defended because white's knight is pinned by the other bishop, but loses a lot of time. White is ready to castle, perhaps. Really sharp. I have a feeling that this is going to be decisive as well, this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel that black's position is very precarious, and he steps forward with the queen to attack the bishop. The black king is just not safe, and oh my God.
Look at the bar.
What is happening? I mean, why is it going up so much? I mean, I think it's just because of black's precarious king situation.
Yeah.
I think I don't think you should retreat that bishop, for instance. Defend it.
Yep, I agree. 100% Ivanka. And there's some easy natural moves to defend it. It's attacked, this piece, it's loose. If you step it back, the problem is now black can gang and cash in on this knight. He's ganging up on this piece, so after a couple of trades, this check is really awkward to deal with. You don't want to investigate that variation, so white's queen, I guess, can just come and defend it. The most natural move to me.
Absolutely.
Defending the piece, but also asking an awkward question of the black bishop. And black's bishop, for example, it can trade off for the white knight, fine. White can take this back in two different ways, but yes, black can again gain the pawn back, so now it would be level material, but already white is lining up some sacrifices on this square. I'd be really tempted here for white to start calculating, for example, bishop takes pawn, and the white queen jumping in. It gets super sharp here. I'm not 100% sure of the evaluation, but this is the type of thing that's going on in their mind. And Shaq, if this works for him, which the computer seems to think it does, then he's got a great position.
Yeah.
You can also play it safe. You don't have to use the square. You can, for example, move your queen to the square, also defending your bishop.
Yeah.
Choice.
Don't play it safe.
You don't want to play it safe.
It's a sharp position. It's open. Play the most active move if you can. So this one I like because it also gains time, as David indicated, attacking the bishop and setting up all those potential sacrifices that white will always have. I really think that Duda and his only move, what move is it? It's 12. Is already in survival mode.
Yeah.
It feels like he's on tilt, Duda. Body language is negative. He's been shaking his head a bit this game. He's freestyling in an opening. You need to know all the details. As I mentioned, I looked at this opening a few months ago for black, and I decided, it's too many minefields, too much room for error. From a human point of view, none of the moves are natural. You can't just freestyle, especially in a rapid game. Maybe in a long game, you can calculate your way out of trouble, but look at the evaluation bar shooting up.
And are we still in the opening?
Yeah.
Yeah, because neither king has castled. And it's only move 13, and wow, this is like a red rag to the bull. He's just asking Mamedyarov to sacrifice. So he's attacking with this last retreat. He's attacking white's knight in the center of the board. But first of all, that knight can be defended with white's rook in the corner. White's rook on the left can just slide over behind this knight in the middle and defend it. Secondly, you could jump forward and give up this white knight for a couple of pawns. Slightly tempting. Highly tempting, actually. And what do you think, Ivanka? Is Mamedyarov just going to play safe with this knight? Is there anything immediately that you see?
No, I don't see anything immediate. But you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that he might defend it with his rook, but via the means of castling or something. But maybe that's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the radar, right?
Yeah.
So this knight is attacked. The reason I'm slightly tempted to calculate this move, knight takes pawn, is because once the bishop recaptures, you have 3 pawns for a piece, so it's actually level material. But also, this bishop covers any square that the black king will ever castle to. So black's king is trapped in the center for the rest of the game. That being said, no direct threats for white, so it's understandable to want to avoid this. This one would need a lot of good judgment. And like you said, the safer move is... Which one is he playing?
He's gone for it, of course. It's Shaq.
It's Shakhriyar Mamedyarov sacrificing.
Very nice.
Yeah, the safe one I was about to say is to bring the rook across. But nope, no safety here. And this king now is going to be a target for the rest of the game. Stuck, stranded in the center.
Wow.
White's king, it looks like it's stuck in the center as well, but it still can castle on both sides of the board. Watch out for Shaq castling queenside, maybe with devastating effect later on when Duda least suspects it. Computer doesn't approve, but it's one of those positions. It could swing in either side's favor if anyone makes a mistake now. High-stakes chess.
This is the chess we were hoping for.
Yeah. Yesterday we were so close so many times, but Duda was always able to shut down Mamedyarov.
Yeah.
Not today.
But Duda had his own brand of very dynamic chess, actually, that completely baffled Mamedyarov. And here we see almost that the 2 last games that they played have been in Mamedyarov's territory. The position has been very open. The kings have been unsafe. And this is where Mamedyarov just excels. I mean, he's so good at calculation. He's so good with activity. And as David mentioned, he's great at attacking with pieces. So Duda's king is in hot water right now. And whilst he's thinking about how to repair, OK, he develops his knight. This is very natural. I wanted to share with you one meme from Gaurav Mukherjee. Okay, we see white castle the king, get it to safety. The black king is still so unsafe. The rooks are going to come in. And it's very relatable, he says. And I'm going to, hopefully it'll come up. And he says here, I love this one. My coach, impressed I didn't take a seemingly hanging pawn because it drops a piece after a 5-move sequence. Yay! Me, not seeing the hanging pawn.
Oh.
And is this from The Office? Is Steve
Carell?
Carell, yeah. Yeah, I like that, especially with the bum bag as well. And the hairstyle.
That's happened to all of us at some point as well. Blundering our way through life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent memes, you guys. Keep them coming. And remember, use the hashtag #ChessChamps for a chance to win a mug of David Howell.
My face. I don't know why anyone would want that, but you have the opportunity.
It's a very nice mug.
It is.
Look at that.
It's very cool.
It's very cool.
I've drunk out of that exact cup. Anyway, moving on. Back to the game. Yeah, I'm just wondering now, Duda in thought for over a minute. What do you think, Ivanka? Is he going to get brave, Duda, and castle queenside? I'm saying this really reluctantly because it looks so ugly, but I don't see what else to do. Duda's king, you need to sort it out before the white rooks centralise and start going for that black king, before white's knight starts jumping forward.
It makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, the other option is to
resign. Sorry. I'm not Simon Williams. That's not my catchphrase.
Yeah. The other option is to live with the king in the centre, and we can't go for that.
It feels...
no man's land there.
Fire.
Yeah, I mean...
Dicing with death if you keep your king in the middle.
Exactly. So I agree with you. I mean, my vibe was just a castle to the left.
Because, I was just trying to scout out the position to see where the king wants to be ideally. And if it does castle queenside, it's not safe here, obviously, because of this diagonal, and it's also on an open file. However, this king, which looks really, really weak on this side of the board, if you just give it one more move, for example, if white just takes a timeout, very natural rook move, the king will slide across, and suddenly it's much safer, right? Suddenly, actually, this white pawn is blocking any attacks towards it. It's defended by its bishop. Relatively safe. I'm still scared as black to have my king on this side of the board. It looks far more open than white's king, which is nicely protected by pawns. But to me, it looks like he has to try this at some point. If you don't go for this, how are you ever getting your rook in the game, really? At first, I thought, oh, maybe the black knight will jump. But again, white, for example, has options such as leaping forward with the white knight. This looks very strong. White's rook can also slide across. There's going to be tactics.
Left, right, and centre. Yeah.
Literally
Absolutely.
left, right, and centre in this position. Literally on this side of the board, on the right side of the board, and in the centre with the king. And he hasn't castled. OK, he brought his rook into the game, but he's leaving a sitting duck in the centre of the board. Clear target. Oof. What do you think of this one?
I don't like it. I mean, I agree with you. I was also afraid of the knight jumping in and opening lines. I was terrified of the black king being in the middle.
Yeah, the black king is destined to be in the middle now for the rest of the game. It will never castle on the other side of the board because white covers that square too many times. And I mean, this move's definitely on the radar, jumping forward. If you want to kind of wait and kind of save them whatnot, keep it up your sleeve for later, then maybe this move. Again, I just see some tactics along this file. It's actually hard for the black queen to find a safe square. Maybe she has to go to the centre of the board now. Maybe that's the only safe square for the black queen. Again, rook opposite queen ends in disaster, as we nearly saw in the last game.
Yeah. And
so many tempting options.
Definitely. And I was kind of... You might approve, but you might also frown and say to me, hey, chess is timing, you're not being energetic enough. But I was also thinking of the king sliding over to the h1 square and play it in a positional way.
I approve, Ivanka. I will never, ever criticise a nice, kind of safe, strategic move. Even if the timing's wrong, I like the idea. No, I mean, this one makes sense as well, because it's not just getting the king off this diagonal, right?
Yeah.
Or off this open file. It's also, you might want to push your pawns forward.
I do want to push the pawn forward, not necessarily to explode open the position, but actually to control the squares, and especially the e5 square in the middle.
Because actually, this might be the only safe square for the black knight, but also for the black queen. For example, in that variation we showed, the black queen wanted to leap into the center. Now there's no more pin on this diagonal. You push forward, kick her away.
Okay.
And, okay, he does jump in. As we mentioned, this is very tempting as well. So attacking the black queen now. I don't think you can tolerate this knight in the center of the board much longer. Evaluation bar still says it's good for white. Maybe not the best move, but very human. And we've learnt that Shak has his own evaluation style in his head. Queens and rooks are basically worth the same. So in the brain of Mamedyarov, the queen now attacked. So I think I would just capture this knight without hesitation. I would probably just live to regret it immediately, but I would take this piece off the board. What is Shak's idea here? It looks tempting to take with the queen. There's a threat now of coming across and checking the black king, but maybe the black knight could have moved out the way and blocked that idea. Okay, he doesn't go for this, and Jovanka, you're excited.
I'm very excited because the move I suggested has been played.
Wow.
You know, the knight came in. I agree with you. You should have taken that knight off. It's too dangerous. Can't let her live. And, you know, the queen came to the e5 square, and the king moved over to h1. Small moves and big consequences because, of course, f2, f4 is coming.
Yeah, this move was not earlier possible. Now it's a big, big threat. And we should mention this bishop, it is en prise, it is loose, but don't take it. It's poisoned. If you take the bishop, then you walk into a knight fork. You would lose your queen. So still, I mean, it's really tense in the middle of the board. It's really packed in the center there with all these 4 pieces. But again, it's about the black king, and slowly pieces are gravitating towards it. Yeah, I mean, this looks absolutely terrifying for black. This pawn push is going to just, I mean, it's going to blast everything out of the way. And white's rook could open up on this f-file as well. The other rook can swing across any time. Black is essentially playing without this piece as well. It's stuck in the corner if you can't castle. You're essentially playing a rook down. You have an extra bishop for 3 white pawns, so level material, but you're playing a rook down in the corner. Duda, he doesn't look happy at all.
No. Yeah.
He moves his king.
With good reason. And at least now, black is threatening to capture the bishop, and Mamedyarov instantly, you know, applies the pressure. And look at that. The queen moves over to the right and is actually threatening to lift herself up all the way to the h6 square to deliver what is virtually checkmate.
And the bar is now saying Shak is winning.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can see it on Duda's face. He was shaking his head. Shak is just so inspired today. He woke up on the right side of bed, we've got to say, and what a move. He plays it instantly. As you mentioned, Jovanka, this bishop is now attacked because no more checks. But just the general full board awareness to swing your queen the whole way across instantly, to switch angles, defending the bishop, also helping an attack against this, whoops, my arrows. He's helping an attack against this knight. And the more deadly threat of all of them is, as you mentioned, Jovanka, this check. How do you defend? Maybe you just don't. Maybe it is time to resign.
It's disgusting, isn't it?
It's
I mean, it's such a horrible position, yeah. And the black king unsafe. None of black's pieces can assist this poor creature.
Yeah.
And it's so rare, I think, that we see a player make a move and the bar just grows after their move. Usually it just goes down and it goes up for the other player's move.
Yeah.
Is this a genius move that Mamedyarov has made, moving his queen?
Yeah, I think it's not just one genius move as well, it's a genius concept. So it's Shakhriyar, as we saw in the last game, he sacrificed his queen for a rook. And from a human point of view, it looks like, okay, material down, you're losing. But he sees long-term, there's actually compensation, there's practical problems for your opponent for the next 10 moves. And this queen move was set up by his last few. But it's not obvious for humans, first of all, because it's part of a bigger plan. But it's also not obvious for humans. Sorry, not obvious for computers, because normally computers, they want to look at the forcing moves first, but he's just slowly setting up the threats. He's slowly building up all the pieces. And +5 now. It's growing even more, Kaya, like you say. And that's because the computer is now realizing there's just no defense. Duda realized very quickly there was no way back. He was shaking his head. He realized he's about to get checkmated or he's about to lose that black knight. Then he'll just be 3 pawns down for nothing.
Wow.
But computers, maybe they were trying to find ways to defend. They're not working. So Shak has that instinct, but he also has the imagination to come up with these crazy plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's difficult to even suggest a surviving move for Duda, and I was looking at him in the camera, he knows it. So I think this is just a random move just to perhaps kind of distract Mamedyarov, but nope, nothing's going to happen here. He's in full control.
Yeah, I mean, you could just take this pawn with the white bishop, for example.
I agree.
Yeah, there's one defensive idea that if the white queen slides up with that check that we mentioned now, that we mentioned on the last turn, that black's queen actually can jump back to defend her king. So retreat squares have been created for the black queen. I think Duda had to try this. There was just nothing else. But yeah, just take that pawn. And actually, white's attacking material up. White will have 4 pawns for black's bishop. And yeah, Duda, he's been hit by just a storm today in the 2 games, both games. How is Duda going to recover from this?
Shaking his head. Do you think already we're only in move 19? We're going to see him resign quite soon?
It's possible.
No, I don't think he's going to resign just yet. I mean, because it's a badge. I don't know, it's not a badge of honour, but you do not want to lose in under 20 moves. No. Then that falls under the category of miniature. And you might find yourself in the wrong end of a miniature book. Ooh. And you're just like, no, that doesn't happen. And so you'd like to kind of drag the game on, you know, say 25 moves. That's OK, won't get in there. And but this is just a masterpiece from Shakhriyar. So instrumental how he uses all his pieces. And as David says, we're just expecting bishop takes pawn. Simple is best.
Yeah, you're right, Jovanka. You'll end up in every newspaper, every chess column around the world if you lose in less than 20 moves, because newspapers, they have a certain amount of space and they need quick, short games, pretty attacks.
You're going to put it on your column?
I'll put it in my newspaper this game if Shak can finish it off. Meanwhile, he surprises us, he surprises Duda. Not maybe with the most obvious move, but I think equally strong.
It is very strong.
Look at the white queen. She's attacking that black rook in the middle of the board and it's undefended. How do you hold on to it? The black rook is tied down defending its knight. You can't defend that piece.
No, you can't. Definitely you can't. And that's such a classy move. Once again, you know, Shakhriyar not playing the most obvious. Instead, he's all about applying pressure on Duda. And Duda shaking his head. He knows he's in big, big trouble.
Yeah. And, OK, he just gives up the black rook. At least he gets rid of one attacking piece for white. The rook does drop. Black's king is going to move. Again, no safe squares, though. You can block with the black queen, maybe. But everything's falling. It's like your opponent's in your house just grabbing everything now. They're grabbing all your possessions, grabbing all your pieces. And everything's falling down. And
still, the black king is so unsafe. I mean, if the king had some shelter it could hide behind, black's position would be tenable. But as it stands, what's happening?
He's still thinking, Duda, OK, he moves his king. I was saying maybe just block with the black queen, try and get the queens off the board at least, because you're facing a huge attack. Normally that's good advice. If you're getting attacked, try and trade the queens. But he's beating himself up, Duda. Yeah. He's, OK, now he's smiling. He's realising he's on tilt. He's trying to get out of it. But it's not easy as a chess player. When you're stuck in your own head and you're being hit by a tornado like this.
Yeah.
Not easy.
It's fascinating to watch him, all the emotions he's going through. Do you think he knows he's losing this game? He's just holding it off?
He's not even looking at the board.
And another fantastic move from Shak. I thought that, yay, he's going to move the queen. Shak is like, no, I'm going to give up my queen. Whoa. But in return, of course, he's threatening to capture the queen. I mean, such a classy move.
It's like the Incredible Hulk. The catchphrase is smash, Hulk smash. Shak, attack. That's his phrase. And every move is just an attack. He's creating threats on every turn. I mean, this is so classy. Yeah, the white queen just simply cannot be captured right now. I have a feeling Duda's going to resign, but what else can you do? You just have to applaud the opponent. That's why Duda's smiling, because he knows he hasn't actually played that badly, Duda. It's just Shak's on fire. And sometimes you have to applaud. You have to take your hats off to the opponent. Shak knows he's winning as well. He looks so calm, looking away, drinking some tea or water. And let's just show this final tactic in this position. Most humans, their queen is attacked, you drop back the queen, you give a check, but not Shak. He wants to counter, he drops his knight back, and he's hitting the black queen, key defender. If black rook takes the white queen now, not only do you win the black queen, but you end up with a fork, and you win a rook for free. And the reason this is so strong as well is the black queen has nowhere good to go. She's tied down defending her knight. For example, if she drops back to this square defending her knight, then this check is going to be deadly from the front. And when the king drops back, everything wins here. But for example, you can just take a pawn, jump in with the knight next move, and checkmate is coming. And we'll see this.
And he just looks away after making the move, Duda. He seems finished with this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his position is in tatters. There's nothing he can do to salvage this. And you see it there.
So much emotions for young Christoph Duda right now.
Yeah. What a game again. It's so hard to pick out highlights. How are we going to sum up this game? It's like bang, bang, bang. Every move so surprising, so direct, so creative.
Just brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, Shak has come today like a man inspired. There are not enough superlatives right now to describe Shak's play. He's in his element.
Yeah, I wish I was capable of playing chess like this. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's kind of easy in chess to think about strategy. You learn principles, you hear these phrases all the time, but how do you teach this? It's just a mindset. It's just being brave on every move, going for the opponent's throat, never ever backing down. It's not even just the chess itself, which is beautiful. It's, yeah, that mentality.
I have to say, it's very beginner-friendly as well. Even I can sort of see the power in his attacking moves and the joy in the sacrifices and the craziness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always recommend to players starting out the game, work on those tactics. Shak, clearly, when he was younger, was going through tactic books. He was working on calculation. And young players, they should learn to attack. That's the hardest thing to teach, actually, in chess. You can teach endgames, teach the defense, teach openings later in life, but attacking, that's something you need to hone when you're young, when you don't have that fear in you. And he's had that since a young age.
Yeah.
Shak.
And Shak has a very special story, actually, because when he grew up in a very small apartment, and there wasn't that much room in this apartment for him to go and study. And there we see pawn takes pawn on the board. And so every day he would get up at 5 in the morning, and before going to school, he would go to the park and just study and read books.
Wow.
And there we see the rook attack the queen, and the queen give a check. And once again, the black king, it's caught in the crossfire. There's some rooks that are going to come down and give checks.
Yeah, there's a lot of open lines in the middle of the board towards that black king. And white is playing without his rooks, as you mentioned, Jovanka. And the ingredients for any successful attack, use every piece. Yeah, white's rooks. I mean, he's basically won the game without his rook so far. But to put the icing on the cake, you need to use those pieces. I'm not sure which rook you use first. It looks a bit scary that the black light-squared bishop is on the same diagonal as the white king. That's the one kind of hope for Duda, but everything's protected. White's knight actually protects his king. And yeah, the rooks, I mean, you can bring them in either order. I think you want to put them on the two central files, the E and D files, and black's defenses will collapse.
Yeah.
+9, the computer says.
Yeah, it's definitely move a rook, trap the king. The one thing that I would say is that don't check the black king into safety. I mean, what you want to do, the black king is in the middle of the board, keep it there. Keep it caged. I mean, we saw a game, I think in the game between Duda and Carlsen, where Carlsen's king was in the middle of the board, but it got checked into safety. And then, of course, the job became a lot more difficult. But it's very, very natural to give checks.
Yeah.
But be aware.
It's very tempting. And that's the first thing we're taught to calculate, after all. So the most natural move here would be one of the rooks to give a check. He does start this way, but black's king needs 3, maybe even 4 moves to run into the left corner where it might be safe. So you still have a couple of moves to catch it in the middle and not let it run any further. And yeah, I'm expecting the other white rook to come into the game. OK, first he pushes a pawn. Defensive chess.
Cool
Not-
customer.
Not what we're used to from Shaq, but the logic behind that one is that Black's light squared bishop was on the same diagonal as White's king, but now White's king is super safe. So now you can go back to that one-track mind of attacking. You've shored up your own defences, and now just bring that last piece into the game. Actually, until this last pawn was captured, I was doing a count. White had a rook and 4 pawns for 2 pieces. So if you do some maths, a rook and 4 pawns, that was worth 9, same as a queen. Black had 2 pieces worth 6. So White was actually up on material, despite all of Shaq's sacrifices earlier.
Wow.
And Duda's still shaking his head. Black doesn't have any threats. You can just improve White's pieces.
Yeah. It's also tempting to give checks with the knight, because unfortunately the king is 2 squares away from going into safety, and yeah, it's going to be in trouble on the c line.
Yeah, that's true. In order to get to safety, it has to cross onto dangerous files first, and Duda looks heartbroken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to feel for Duda, and there you go. The rook comes and cages the king. King is going to be kept in the middle of the board, and now White has a deadly threat of coming forward with the knight to give a check on e6.
Yeah, the knight check is going to be the killer. I just want to say as well, this is like a pincer movement. It's like one rook cuts the king from running to the right, the other rook is going to cut the king from running to the left, and therefore it's stuck in the middle, and it won't have any escape squares. For example, if it continues its journey to try and hide in the corner, then it steps onto an open file, and now, at the very least, White can just step the pawn forward and win this bishop that's pinned. It can't move. And yeah, this pincer movement with the 2 rooks is so classy and deadly as well. Yeah, nothing to do against this check. The king is caught. Game over. I think we'll see Duda resign in the next 2 or 3 moves.
Wow. Yeah,
He tried to defend, but not quite enough.
He looks like he is ready to resign, Jan Christoph Duda, and I can't believe the drama on this final day of Aimchess Rapid. Shakhriyar Mamedyarov is about to go 2 points up, and in game 3, Duda will have to win that game to have a chance to decide this. In the Rapid portion, if it is a draw or a win for Mamedyarov, we will head straight to blitz tiebreaks to decide the winner of the Aimchess Rapid.
Wow, yeah, who would have predicted that?
Yeah.
I was saying it's going to be a really tough day for Mamedyarov. He'd have to slowly work his way into it. Nope, he started with a bang.
Yeah.
And he means to go on that way. OK, the only kind of thing you could trip over here is the clock. 1 minute for Mamedyarov. He does look slightly nervous. They do say winning a 1 game, that's the hardest thing in chess. He's done all the hard work. Can he put on the finishing touches? That black king just looks completely naked and just devoid of any shelter in the middle of the board. White's queen could drop back, give a check. I mean, there must be plenty of ways here.
Yeah, you kind of feel that the white queen is the one person that's missing from the white attack. Everyone else is doing their job, so get her in.
Yeah, so you could drop her back, for example, 2 squares and give a check there, but OK, Shaq pushes a pawn. What's the idea behind this one? Surprising.
It did occur to me, but pawn takes pawn. Aha! Oh, he's so good. And we have to show the idea, David.
Show it. So it looks like this pawn was doing nothing. He's thrown it forward. And OK, if the bishop takes, then now the king is properly cut off. No escape along these files. The white queen is now able to come into the centre of the board. And look at this, the white queen, the white rooks. They are going to trap this king. This is going to end in checkmate. But you mentioned a plan here, Jovanka. Pawn takes pawn.
Yeah, and now you want to destabilise the bishop because it's defending a key defender. And push the b-pawn forward and ask the question. Has to move. And once it goes, well, the queen can deliver a devastating check.
Yeah, and for example, bishop takes pawn, and now we see why Mamedyarov lured this pawn onto the b6 square, because now it's easy food for the white queen. Queen takes, and yeah, this is, I mean, he's seeing 3 moves, 4 moves tactics, even with 1 minute on his clock. And OK, you called it there, Jovanka. This is on the board. And OK, Duda's going for the white king now. He's brought his rook down to sacrifice. He's trying to open up white's king. It's not going to work. It's going to be too late. The white knight can simply jump back and defend. But there is some threat here. There is a threat of checkmate along this diagonal if the knight is captured.
But it's not going to work because the queen retreats, gives a check.
Yeah, and defends her knight. And next move, white can simply gobble up the bishop. It's going to be game over. White's going to be ahead 2 rooks. And there we go. Duda does resign.
Oh, wow. He goes up by 2 points, Shakhriyar and Mamedyarov. Look at him. Stone-faced.